Welcome back to Face the Campus, everybody. Tonight we have a special guest here on the show, Mr. Mike Manning here from MTV's Real World DC. Mike, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Again, Mike's a political activist. He's speaking here at Clarion University tonight. So, Mike, can you tell us a little bit about what your lecture's regarding tonight?
This specific lecture is about activism in general and why it's so important for younger people to be politically active, politically engaged. And then I'm also going to talk about my time in DC and the organizations I worked for. So I'm going to talk about the Energy Action Coalition and my work with environmentalism, and then how that kind of turned into a job with the Human Rights Campaign and my fight for equality.
Okay, now, what first got you interested in politics? I mean, was it before DC, or was there a specific topic that interested you?
Well, I've always been interested in environmental stuff because in college, when I was in college in Colorado, I worked. I was a business major, and I worked with small businesses to make them more environmentally conscious and reducing their carbon footprint, things like that. I was in a club. I don't know if you guys have it here, but it's called SIFE, Students in Free Enterprise. So one of my big kind of baby projects that was, that I gave birth to was just this giant effort to make the companies around the school go green. Okay. And so going to DC, that was kind of the issue that I had the most experience with.
Okay, now not all teenagers and college-age students are interested in politics. Now, to those who aren't totally politically engaged, what would you say to them in trying to get them involved?
Well, I think that college students, especially nowadays, they have such a great access to information and sharing that information on social media and websites, and you can get newspapers from around the world. And so I think that we're at a time right now where the younger generation especially can be more educated and exposed to these global issues more than ever. And I just think that there are some people that like to complain about the way things are, and there are some people that actually do something about it. And I find the second group is more impactful. So it's just something to think about. A lot of people are very opinionated. They'll hide behind their keyboards and type about stuff on websites, but a lot of people don't actually have the gall to go out and do something about it.
Now, you kind of touched on it there, through the getting involved. Now, what would you say political activism means to you?
I guess just, I think it's just learning about the issues, finding your opinion on the issues, and then being open to talk to others and take opportunities to meet with lawmakers and people that actually can make a difference, and try to get your point across.
Now, you mentioned equality in the environment just a moment ago. What other issues are important to you?
Those are the big two. I mean, there are so many issues out there. I mean, I could talk about immigration and healthcare and all this stuff, but I think especially with equality, it's such an umbrella term, and so we can talk about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, the passing of the repeal of the Defense of Marriage Act. We can talk about Employment Non-Discrimination Act. We can talk about the Uniting American Families Act. I mean, there's so many bills and amendments and things that only HRC works with. And so, I mean, there are just so many. My kind of main focus right now is equal rights and equality, and kind of the mission statement of the Human Rights Campaign, because in working with them while I was in DC, I was just exposed to the, I guess, the discrimination that the LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community faces. I mean, in 29 states, you can be fired from your job just for being gay. Under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, it took 17 years to repeal, and under that law, over 13,000 soldiers were discharged, a lot of them losing benefits. That's their livelihood. If you're dishonorably discharged from the military, you lose all your benefits. You can never have another government job. And so, I mean, there are just so many things that are unfair about the way things are that a lot of people, including myself before DC, didn't even know about. So I find it, it's a privilege for me to actually be able to go out and talk to these people and say, hey, this is the way things are. What do you think about it? And then a lot of people are like, I never even, are you serious? And then they get involved and engaged. So.
Now, you're a religious person, according to your website and your time on Real World. You know, you're a fairly religious person. Do you find your religious convictions ever conflicting with your political ideology?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think that, you know, religion's always been a huge part of my life, and it's helped me through, you know, some tough times. And I find, you know, my relationship with God and Jesus and the church is very important to me. But that's not to say that because of some of the because of Real World and some other recent causes that I've become involved with, it hasn't created some tension between me and some members of my church. Mm-hmm. I think some of the most heated debates, and the debates that I get most passionate about, are with people that use the Bible as a weapon and as a tool for discrimination. For me, I mean, the Bible is about acceptance and love and respect and building communities of people that care about each other. You know, it's not about, oh, you can't eat shellfish, oh, you can't wear cloth and linen on the same day, oh, you're going to be stoned for this and, you know, thrown off a cliff for that. I mean, that's not what the Bible's about. And so when people kind of use the Bible to discriminate, I think that that's hypocritical in and of itself. Okay, now, moving to some other topics, you know, of course, you're most famous for your time on Real World. Do you feel that your time on the show has helped you politically? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely given me a platform for a lot of my issues, and it got me involved in politics. I mean, before I was a business student in Colorado, and I, you know, like I said, environmental stuff, and you know, I was engaged in certain issues, but definitely not to the level that I kind of immersed myself in D.C. And so I guess you could say that Real World, you know, in 10 years I'll probably look back and say Real World DC was the start of my political career. I do plan on running for office in the next decade, so. Would you run in Colorado, you know, your home state? Yeah, I'd move back to Colorado and I'd start there. Congressman Jared Polis is a very good friend of mine and one of my idols. Mm-hmm. He's just a genius, and so I wouldn't mind kind of following in his footsteps. Okay. Now, as you mentioned, you went to D.C. to become an environmentalist and unexpectedly became an activist for LGBT. And how do you feel about the repeal of Don't Ask, Don't Tell? You touched on it. Can you elaborate a little more about that? I think it's great. I think that it was a stupid law, obviously. And, you know, it's just, like any law that says, okay, well, anybody can do this, but we're going to discriminate against, you know, hundreds of thousands, millions of people, saying you can't serve your military, you don't have access to a right that everyone else that is straight and normal has access to. I mean, I've met, in working with the Human Rights Campaign and Service Members United while I was in D.C., I met so many veterans, like these big guys that you would never guess that, you know, a lot of them were telling me they were Arabic linguists and they knew, you know, 6-7 languages, a lot of them, you know, based in the Middle East in a time of war. And a lot of these guys had skills and their sexual orientation had nothing to do with their skills. You know what I mean? And so I think it was a stupid law. It took 17 years to repeal. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and it's also adding momentum to the equal rights movement in general. Just saying, hey, a lot of these people got involved, engaged, voiced their opinions. We saw a change happen. You know what I mean? Yeah. So. Now, as you mentioned, you're very much a man of acceptance, you know, and equality. Explain how this ideal is important to college-age students, not only just for themselves and in society, but accepting others. Well, I think it's good, you know, you and I talked before about now in our society, you know, the millennials, like our generation, we're so exposed to diversity, to other cultures, to other ideas, to, you know, I think we're traveling more, and you can sit behind your computer and just read newspapers from all over the world and watch YouTube videos of, you know, the riots in Egypt. It just, we have such great access to other cultures and things that we never did before. And so I think that just a side effect of that is our culture becoming more accepting to new ideas and less discriminatory. And I think that's great, you know. Absolutely. I just, that's the way it should be. All right, and lastly for you, Mr. Manning, the topic we're covering on the show tonight talks about President Obama's and the administration's plan
to allocate $53 billion for high-speed rail travel. Now, being an environmentalist, do you think this is a great plan and a good idea for America?
If it reduces our dependence on foreign oil, I think it's great. I don't know the specific details, but infrastructure is always something that boosts the economy, and it's kind of, you know, Democrats and Republicans can agree on it because it creates jobs, and especially if it's going to, like I said, reduce our dependence on foreign sources for oil, that might relieve some pressure on us as, you know, foreign relation-wise.
Yeah, no, that's part of the plan too, is that it's supposed to cut down on some of the foreign oil and things like that. So, again, obviously, you know, big environmental issue right now is, you know, getting away from the fossil fuels.
As long as they can construct this railroad in an environmentally friendly as possible way, then I'm all for it.
All right. Well, thank you for being
on
Face
thanks
to
a lot,
Campus
man.
today.
Can I plug my movie? I have a movie coming out next month. It's called
You're an actor as
E-Cupid.
well. Here, give us a little insight into your acting career. What's coming up and about this movie?
Okay, well, I have a movie coming out. It's in March. It's called E-Cupid. It's a romantic comedy about a guy's iPhone app that kind of takes control of his love life. So I play this like skater kid guy, and it's really funny. So, you know, I can send you guys information on that, or, you know, it'll be on my website. So obviously, you read some of that stuff.
Yeah, we'll keep tabs on that.
Yeah.
All right,
man.
Well,
Thanks a lot for having me.
Not a problem. We'll have more coming up on Face to Campus after this, so stay tuned.